Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy podcast. Getting some feedback. There we go. All right, we are in the Philosophical Midwifery book. Last time we looked at the significance of the milieu, or the group dynamics, or the emotional, what did they call it? The emotional climate, right? So the Pathologos we read generates a way of being through managing the states of mind for the milieu. So there's a certain emotional climate, a certain way of being, certain states of mind that are allowed and managed through the introduction of the Pathologos. This is what we do here. And we talked about to the degree that the milieu is dominated by the Pathologos, the more difficult it is to separate from the Pathologos. Because it's assumed if the milieu is challenged, one faces severe retaliation in the form of angry, scornful, and possibly hostile acts from the authorities for not accepting the way the family functions. Last time we looked at group dynamics. Maybe you've been a part of a group before. Maybe you've been part of more than one and you've recognized, hang on a second, this group has a certain emotional framework, a certain milieu, a certain way of doing things within the group. And the more severe it is, the more dangerous it can seem to you for challenging the way of being. Same thing with our family. The more that the milieu or the climate, the way of being, the emotional landscape, to the degree that is dominated by the fundamental false belief about self and reality that the family is bind together on, the more dangerous it is to speak out, and the more vicious or hostile or angry or scornful it is to speak out against it. Now, this is families. This is our family. This was our situation. So we have to become aware of what was that milieu within which the drama of the Pathologos played out, leading me to come to this conclusion about myself in the world, including my self-goals, including my self-experience, including my self-understanding based on my self-experience. All of those come together in one word, myself logos. Why did I sacrifice myself logos? Well, what was the drama, but specifically also what was the milieu within which the drama played out, within which I came to this wordless conclusion. And we looked at the stakes of speaking out against it. Now, also, welcome to anybody joining live in the chat. Also, we talked about groups. And I said last time I've been involved in certain groups where it was very much the case where you walked into the room and the milieu was dense, like a black cloud. And you would see people who would offer, hey, maybe we can do better. And they were out that door quick smart. And that's the case for every group to a certain level. There'll be a certain level of logos that you can reach until the Pathologos is triggered. Now, to the extent that the milieu or the emotional climate is dominated by the Pathologos of those who have put themselves in the position of authority. We've already seen how humans are drawn to that. We want to get into that position of power. Why? So we can cosplay the guru. Simple as that. Our quest is to become a guru, to gain a master of the logos, so you can use that to act artfully towards your own state of mind, wherever you are, and towards others. That's a guru. We all are seeking that in our essence, to become like daemons, as Socrates points out. So what? Why don't we do that? Why are we so irrational and immature in this quest? Well, because the cosplaying of that is far more attractive. Touches a button within our evolutional, our the way that we evolved. Certain, as we called, the urge to be like the imitation is greater even than our desire for truth and excellence. Which is why we need to be practicing the virtues. It takes some courage, discipline, effort, maturity to constantly practice following the Logos in spite of that. We are in an interesting situation as humans. We can be puzzled about that. We should be puzzled about it, but that's the game. Can we sacrifice the illusion, the cosplay for the truth? Which is another way of saying, can we sacrifice the Pathologos for the Logos? Another way of saying, can we sacrifice our sickness and suffering for our health and excellence and happiness? Eudaimonia, to be as a good daemon. Or, another way of saying the same thing, sacrifice our fate for our destiny. Isn't it interesting that all of these things can be reduced to 2 balloons? And that 2, if you make the right choice, the Logos, well, mastery of the Logos also involves mastery over the Pathologos. A 2 to a 1. We're climbing a ladder from the manyness to a 2-ness to a single 1. Of course it has to be. Has to be a 1. Otherwise you could think of a higher destiny that is more unified, more whole, and that would be better. Has to come to a oneness. That's the Logos. So isn't that neat that we can see it? Yes. Isn't it neat that we can understand and make sense of what we felt? I'm sure you've felt, well, I'm not sure. I suspect you've also felt different groups are more limited. There's a lower glass ceiling, this far and no further. Now we can understand why. To the extent the milieu is dominated by the Pathologos, it's to that extent that that we face a difficulty in speaking out against it, acting against it. So that's where we are. So let's keep reading from there. Here's our scroll. Whoops. There we go. To the degree the milieu is itself dominated by the Pathologos, to that degree it is more difficult to separate from the Pathologos. So that's where we care about it. We want to separate from it. We want to become better people and happier people. Because it is assumed if the milieu is challenged, one faces severe retaliation in the form of angry, scornful, and possibly hostile acts from authorities for not accepting the way the family and, as above, so below groups functions. Right? Further, since the milieu is dominated by the Pathologos, it follows that the Pathologos itself will be introduced as if it were rational and a completely normal view of oneself in the world. Makes sense, right? Now we can elevate it a little bit from Pathologos to prejudices and to see it a little bit better. Grow up in a racist family doing a whole bunch of racist stuff can be very confusing to a kid. You ain't born racist. And then, which is funny because that goes against the beliefs of racism. People are just genetically bad. But that racist belief that finally makes sense is introduced as if it's perfectly rational and normal. That's why racist people say, I'm not racist. But it gains a credibility because it does appear as rational. It seems as if it were the exception to the chaos of the milieu. Finally, something makes sense. For the authority appears to have finally emerged as a caring and rational being, which is wild. Just like the true guru would be the most caring because he extends a care to your soul, and the most rational because he is the one who has developed a mastery of the Logos. Okay, so we're using the true spiritual discipline, not the wide net we cast over anybody's tradition or beliefs or opinions or whatever. truly caring and truly rational, but it's they're appearing as the cosplay, the imitator. The image of caring will be interpreted in terms of the Pathologos language, and so it readily fits within the structure of the irrational. So if it were really understood in itself, the fraudulent nature of appearance of caring would be realized for what it is. So appearance, belief on one side, realization, understanding on the other side. It's the same dynamic we've seen time and time again in philosophy. Belief first, understanding. So, also it's worth acknowledging it's interpreted through the language. This is the same thing that applies to philosophy. Our spiritual method is the dialectic, developing a language, key terms, seeing how the parts fit together, structuring that for yourself in a dialectic. This is the transition to nous, the experience of true consciousness, true intelligibility, true rationality and caringness, reality itself. Experienced directly as pure knowledge or nous. Direct intuitive knowledge is one way of saying it. But that experience is going to be interpreted within the language you've been developing. So some people might have a light experience and say, oh, I just saw Mother Mary's face. That makes me a more fundamentalist, Christian or Anglican or Protestant or whatever language you use to make sense of things that were outside of the physical world. So we have to develop a language, and we have to undo the false language. It's no use having this experience of pure mind, your mind, self-reflecting itself, your mind, and say, oh no, I saw a Dementor. Because the only language you have is a negative language of Harry Potter. So your parents have said, oh, spirituality is the devil. Harry Potter is the devil. So you're going to use the Harry Potter language to give yourself a bad trip. Same thing if you imagine watching a rugby game, you don't have a language of what a tackle and a scrum and an offside is, and you have a quick glimpse, it would be a big, violent, angry, chaotic mess. Instead of something that people pay a lot of money to go and see because they have the language. So the language, the Pathologos language, is introduced in the milieu along. So again, the two big things of our ladder. The two rungs of the ladder: understanding and vision or state of mind. The Logos ladder. So the milieu gives you a certain language. Certain things you can say, you can call each other names, but not that word. Oh, that's when everyone gets mad at you. Or maybe you're not allowed to criticize at all. Or maybe part of the way of the group is bound together is through attacking each other. So a language, but also states of mind are managed. You can, some people say, well, if I make you angry, I win the argument. That doesn't make any sense. The argument's based on the logos. What are you going to be, a state of mind Hitler? You're allowed to be happy, but not sad. You're allowed to be, maybe you're not even allowed to be happy. You can be neutral. You can't be angry, and so on and so on. But bollocks to that. You can be whatever you want, so long as you're following the logos. If you're engaged in a discussion, if you're doing philosophical midwifery, you might recognize certain states of mind might inhibit your participation in the logos, in which case that's material for your own midwifery. But in terms of conversations and functioning within the group, just because you're angry doesn't mean that you're wrong. So this is a debate trick that a lot of right-wing grifters will use. And at the time of recording, I just watched R.M. Brown, who's a great YouTube content maker. I think he's really cool and really funny. Check him out if you're interested. R.M. Brown. Rational, concise, insightful, to the point. Usually often looks at causes and presents it in a fun, entertaining, personable way. So I think he's great. Other YouTube people who I enjoy, like the Majority Report, they also think he's great. So he must be great. Anyway, so he had a watch along of from the Majority Report, Sam Cedar. He's the guy from What's This Got to Do with Bob's Burgers in our drop.
Have you read Brand at all? Have you read Nagel? What about Scanlon? Have you read Scanlon or Scruton or Edmund Burke? Have you read C.S. Lewis? Have you read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe? Have you read Immanuel Kant? So you know Flick.
What has this got to do with Bob's Burgers?
Do you?
That was Sam Cedar's voice. So he had an interview with a Tim Pool, who is a charlatan, fascist right-wing con artist who tries to use the language to shut down the Logos, anti-Logos. He likes to get clicks through distracting people through nonsense drama that we call today social war or some nonsense like that, to distract people from what they should be voting on in politics. Where's the money going? Is it going to the rich? So it's for them to play at their Pathologos, or is it being shared? That should be the first question asked. Of course, the better question is who's following the Logos and doing midwifery, but we're not at that level yet. So he is a grifter and a liar. And so when Sam Cedar was trying to address the arguments with Logos, with integrity and reason and reflection, Tim Pool used that technique that the grifters use to just interrupt. And then when the person gets frustrated at interrupting, you're emotional, therefore you lose the argument. Bullcrap. Very, very typical. So people start interrupting you in that antagonistic way. They are a con artist. They are a grifter. Maybe they've reached their Pathologos. This is as far as I can take you, so I'm just going to interrupt you. And that can happen. I've been involved in conversations following the Logos and people functioning in a higher way than they have before. Then bystanders feel the need to rush in and just interrupt. And sometimes they bark like a dog for some reason. They even use the ability to use coherent language, which is a fascinating response that can be understood by understanding that this is a Pathologos, a psychic parasite that functions to block the Logos and causes them to act against their interest. They are trying to squash others, crush others the same way they were crushed, because they haven't done this learning. So it's very important that we do this learning. So manage the language, manage the states of mind within the milieu. The greater the milieu reflects the certain false belief about reality, the Pathologos, the harder it is to get out of it. So that's interesting and something to be aware of, because if you're a good person and now that you're aware of that, you need to act on it. So hopefully you will put in place principles so that you can reflect on the times that the Logos is blocked. Where does your ceiling within your group arise? And can you establish principles such that when it does happen, you can address them fairly and justly following the Logos, even if you are yourself in a Pathologos state of mind? Now, extended to the society, that would be what laws are for. That's it. Laws are the principles of the Logos that you establish to relate to yourself and the groups you're in, applied to the whole society. That's it. So what should the laws be? To create the conditions for the Logos, and when Pathologos or when problems arise, create the conditions for midwifery, which is the use of the Logos to address the cause of problems so they can be solved. The individual can learn, which is what we're here for, and society and the human species can learn from it as well, which is also what we're here for. We have a destiny individually and we have a human species destiny. Very simple. That's one of the wonderful things about philosophy. Once you've seen it, it's simple. So all of this debate, oh no, laws should be about oppressing women because the Bible says women are bad, right? Wrong. They're trying to give you a fake ladder so you can say, I'm up the top of the ladder because I'm a man. But how do you prove that? The actual ladder allows you to gain experience of enlightenment, nous. But you don't get that by just staying at the level of dumb beliefs, sexist beliefs, racist beliefs, right-wing beliefs. Then where do you get the benefit of being higher up the ladder? That's why they play to your pathologos. That's why the right wing don't care about policies. They're like, hey, do you hate the people we hate? They're not appealing to the logos. They're appealing to the pathologos. So what's the benefit that shows you that you're high up the ladder? The sadistic pleasure you get in oppressing people below the ladder. You need to give these, the majority, the white men, just using American politics as an example because it's easy to see. You have to give them women and children and minority groups to oppress so they can play their tyrant pathologos role, their parent pathologos role against somebody else, giving them a temporary alleviation from being a tyrant within their own mind to themselves because they haven't done midwifery. It's a sickness. Then who gets to be tyrannical? Who gets to squash and abuse it? Who? That's the Republican Party. We're going to... What's the quote? Let's bring up the quote. That's all right-wing parties. That's why there shouldn't be a right and wing left party. It's absurd. Once you understand it, of course. It's this basic principle. President Lyndon B. Johnson, if you convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him someone to look down on, he'll empty his pocket for you. That's the principle. It's been seen, now we're adding the logos to understand why it's the case. It's cosplaying. So the theme of today is our destiny to become a guru or daemon versus the primal urge to imitate. I'm higher up the ladder without actually having read the book, without actually having done the work, without actually mastered the dialectic. Why? Have you seen my skin color? All right, okay, so now you have power over other people. What are you going to do with that? Abuse people in the way that matches my pathologos? Well, maybe you shouldn't be in charge. So, the milieu. And the language and the states of mind that will allow you to make sense of things. So what does that mean? That means we have to understand states of mind, do our best to get into the better ones, and gain an understanding of it so we can actually make sense of reality properly. All right, going on. Let's bring up my highlighter. Wait, not that. There we go. Highlighter. Whoa, that's big. All right. It is difficult for subjects in such cases to believe that the pathologos can account for so much of the irrationality in the family clan. Difficult. What's the difficulty? Difficult to believe pathologos accounts for the irrationality in the family clan. A crisis often occurs when this is realized because, so there's a crisis that might come up when it's realized, when they finally see it, because they recognize that in separating from the pathologos, one separates from the family itself. There's the crisis. and you realize you grew up with a bunch of Nazis. Well, I don't want to be a Nazi anymore. I might be out of my lovely family that I love. It is okay. So again, you doesn't necessarily have to be Nazi belief, but I'm using Nazi, or because that's obviously fascist and prejudice and stuff and negative, as an example so that we can blow it up. Why? Because it can be difficult and hard to believe that our particular one, which seems so normal and obvious, accounts for the irrationality of our milieu and family, can be so wrong, and therefore worth sacrificing our allegiance to that kind of family to escape our problems, to free ourselves from our problems, to evolve. So, as it's so hard to see, we can use the Nazis as an easy to see example. It is not unusual for people at this stage to reflect on the positive features, but they love me. Reflect on it's not unusual to reflect on the positive features of and to defend the Pathologos. How many times have I seen that? Hey, you've got a Pathologos functioning. No, I will fight you. For they see that it did provide a role. Okay, so what do they see? They see that it provided a role, a way of relating, a set of values. And without these, one has to risk functioning openly and trusting in one's own integrity. All of the focus groups done on the Trump supporters, somebody who is literally declaring, yeah, I'm a racist, fascist, authoritarian who's a grifter and a liar and buy my Chinese-made American Bibles, while I tell you that I'm going to defeat the enemy from within. Everyone who doesn't vote for me, I'm going to call radical and left and vermin, all exactly Hitler language. Why do 50% of Americans vote for him still? Well, what they have seen in these focus groups is that this team provides a role. You got a role. You're defending freedom. You're the hero of the story. A way of relating. Just put on your MAGA hat and say that you love to drink liberal tears, and you have a set of values. Don't they get that? So it's a role. Primarily, it's a way of being able to express oneself through a role, through a way of relating, through a set of values. It's a way of showing oneself. Because we said, well, our destiny is to become the actual guru, and our problems are when we cosplay gurus because of that primal urge to imitate. So too, our destiny is to know and show the self. Well, what do they do if they don't know the self? And if they have Pathologos saying their self is rubbish? This gives people a way of showing themselves. Chanting USA. It gives you a way of venting your anger. You can shoot a brown person and get away with it. Especially if you're wearing a police uniform. Right. Yet, there is this experience of a set of emptiness. So that's the one side of it, but the other side of it, is an experience of a sense of emptiness, and emptiness experienced negatively. So it's not a empty of Pathologos freedom, it's a negative emptiness. So that's duality. So when people realize this, well, I have a way of showing myself. This is my identity. Have you seen my pickup truck? Have you seen how many stickers I have on that about how I hate the left? But now that I realize that it's false and unjust and garbage, I kind of want to defend it, but I do feel an emptiness. This is what's happens for people when they go through their pathologos and see it's not MAGA, whatever their family milieu was, whatever their false belief is, and they have to risk dropping all this stuff. And if you don't, you will feel a sense of negative emptiness. In such times, a deep bitterness and a sense of isolation may develop. But it is always balanced with the knowledge that one's maturity is one's own reward. So, do you want to defend your ignorance and continue to suffer and be unjust and inflict suffering on others and have suffer the implications of dying with this injustice? Whatever that will happen, whatever will happen with your soul in the afterlife and in your reincarnation? Or do you want to, but if you stay loyal to it, you'll feel a sense of emptiness. And maybe if you separate from it, you might feel a sense of emptiness. But mixed in with that sense of emptiness is a realization that you are being more mature, and that's its own reward. Justice. Okay, not because you're getting a cookie, not extrinsic benefit, but your own reward is your own maturity. It is, of course, of the utmost importance for the children to learn how they should live and act within the family. It follows that there should be models and ideals to prepare them for life. So it makes sense. There's a reason why you get the pathologos, why you need to make sense of the milieu, why you get a role and way of expressing yourself. And also, simultaneously, why we're establishing principles. As you pursue your goals, the further you get into this podcast, your pathologos will come up. You should establish paradigms or models for how to live in the logos. What happens when your pathologos comes up? That's what we said. If you don't establish these within a group, the group will function only so far as they're able to, and then they'll hit their blocks, and then the group will die. The importance of establishing principles and models and paradigms. That's what we're learning here, the principles of philosophical midwifery. And also, when we read Socrates, the principles of the logos, the dialectic. This also applies to humanity. Humanity will develop along its logos only so far as its pathologos will allow it, and then unless, of course, we awaken philosophy. That's the name of the channel. And establish the principles of the logos within our lives, within our institutions, and within our society. So that would mean the laws. The laws should reflect the logos. It seems easy when you say it, which is a mark of understanding, by the way. But when they adopt models which have... When they adopt models that aren't the logos, that have been derived from pathologos scenes, then those models are pathological, lacking the discrimination that comes with maturity. So part of the logos, the principles that reflect the logos, is how can you make discrimination? How can you judge? Within the groups, how can you judge when somebody is not following the logos? Hey, even groups that have been aware of the pathologos, one of the ways of blocking the logos is to point and shout, "You're in a pathologos." In other words, you can use your understanding of the logos to sabotage the logos, which will happen if you're learning the logos, because the pathologos you don't have a pathologos, the pathologos has you. It's a psychic parasite. So what? So when people start And I've been in groups like this. I know from experience. When groups start throwing out their "you're in a pathologos" way of attacking people as a way of silencing their logos, shut up, you're in a pathologos, get out of here in a pathologos, I'm going to punch you in the nose because you're in a pathologos. Those are the ones who are in a pathologos, clearly. So what, you're going to say it back to them? Punch them back? Ideally not. You can say, oh, by the way, let's see if that's the case by looking at the principles that we have established that allows us to discriminate, to think, to judge. That's reason, that's maturity. It's very important to judge people's states of mind. Judge how fast the car is going before you cross the street. Anyone who says don't judge is trying to silence the logos. Just like if you're an apprentice mechanic and your master is saying don't judge, don't understand, just believe me, they are a con artist and a grifter. So you need to be able to have actual principles that allow for true judgment, discrimination, which again is the logos. Otherwise, your models are pathological if your models are derived from pathologoscenes. Children conclude about what matters most to those they love and respect. It's a different idea, so let's use a different color. Let's use, what we got here? Let's use yellow. Time for some yellow. Children conclude about what matters most to those they love and respect. Or even those they are subject to. Or even those they are subject to. And so they model themselves to conform to the reality that is presented to them by their authorities. I was going to sneeze, but I didn't sneeze. So they're learning. Children are learning. They look up to what do these our loved ones love and respect, and they model themselves to conform to that reality presented by those they love and respect, or just those they're subject to. You're stuck in that group. Okay. You seem to really love it when I kick the dog. Oh, I think it's good to kick the dog. I met people like this. Say, hey, you shouldn't kick the dog. I'm treating it like I should treat a dog. What does that mean? It means I kick the dog. Why? My parents kick dogs. The model we accept. Let's go like this. Let's put this color here and this color here and this color here. Right. The model we accept binds us to an image, and the acceptance of that bond becomes a sign of love. Hey, how do you show that you love your loved ones? You go around, you kick that dog harder than you've kicked anything before, to show that you've accepted that bond, because that's what they value most. Now, it might not be kicking dogs, it could be kicking women, it could be kicking immigrants, could be kicking anybody who pursues their goals, anyone who does the logos, anyone who doesn't do practical things and reflects on themselves. Indeed, it can be said that the root of every pathologos is modeling ourselves after those who we appeared as knowers. Actually, let's use a different color. Let's use this one. They appeared as knowers. So modeling after those who appeared as knowers, what we call cosplaying. So appearance, cosplaying, pretending, acting out an act. Bullcrapping, con artists, grifters. Knowing, what's a knower? What's the true knower? The guru. The guru is the one who actually has knowledge of self and reality and has knowledge of the logos so that they can actually function to benefit. Ain't not many gurus around, except maybe your daemon in your dreams. And Socrates. And Pierre Grimes. But Socrates and Pierre Grimes are not with us in the physical form right now. So, modeling ourselves after those who appeared as knowers. In those early Pathologos scenes. That's who you're cosplaying. So we've just had Halloween and we dress up as scary characters. What might be more fun is if we have a tradition where we dress up as the most scary figure. We dress up as what our model of our Pathologos is. Imagine that. Imagine every kid at Halloween who's already developed an understanding of what their Pathologos was, because hey, if you're human, you get one. There are things we can do to make it less powerful and to make people wake up to it earlier so they don't have to suffer in their lives and act unjustly. But imagine children are developing an understanding of their Pathologos model such that on Halloween they can dress up as the most scary figure. Wouldn't that be neat? And they could go door to door and talk about the nature of their Pathologos model, why it was scary. Ultimately, it is the most scary. You'll find that the people that they do dress up anyway will probably have a relationship to their Pathologos. Otherwise, why would they be drawn to it? Why would they be interested in it? Why would it actually be scary? Why are some people more scared of whales than, I don't know, the dark or Freddy Krueger rather than Jason Voorhees? The guy with the hockey mask? So that'd be a fun tradition we could have in a rational society. Keep Halloween, but dress up as your Pathologos model, the cosplayer of the guru, which will have the actual devastating things. Hey, you won't get dragged to hell by Freddy Krueger, but whatever the equivalent of what will happen to us in the afterlife if we do not do our job, especially if we're acting in the most unjust way. Which Socrates talks about that in the Phaedo, Tartarus. That would be the actual thing to be worried about, to be concerned about. So it would be the actual horror movie villain. And as we are talking about, if the establishment of the Pathologos, if you challenge that, you'll be met with anger and hostility and violence even by those who are 20 to 30 years older than you as a 4-year-old. That is literally, and they are blind to reason. Literally, it's the archetype of the horror movie villain. Someone who doesn't care about your well-being, doesn't care about the logos and reason, can't be reasoned with, and they are willing to kill you or anything up to killing you, and even that, if you go against their fundamental way of being, which you need to do to reach your goals. Now, because of those horror movie-esque scenarios and conditions as a child, usually it takes you being an adult, being out of the house on your own, to be able to actually go back and challenge those people. In real life or through role-playing or imagination. Or through their surrogates, you'll run into someone just like them. So yeah, it would be actually Halloween, the actual rational, truthful representation of what Halloween is supposedly about. So that would be pretty neat. And every year you can see the child come back and have a deeper understanding of that which they are here to understand. could put it on their costume. That's mythology. Hey, when I was playing hockey really well, my mum took me out of the game because of her jealousy of my functioning with excellence. By the way, if I proved that I was able to be a champion hockey player, it would challenge all of their miserable, complaining way of being. All they do is sit around and complain because they believe they can't be champions. So me being a champion hockey player, that's when my mum jumped up. But we live in a rational society where I can talk about that with her, reflect on that. She values it. She follows the principles, even though her beliefs feel true. So that next Halloween, I'll have the similar outfit, but I'll be carrying a hockey stick. And I'll say, oh, by the way, this represents an aspect of my Pathologos that challenges excellence or challenges success. Or a hockey mask. Okay, the root of every Pathologos, this is important for us, is modeling ourselves after those who appeared as knowers, cosplay the guru, in those early Pathologos scenes, and in preserving that image,
My mother's a saint.
of the knowing authority, we perpetuate that image in our own lives. So this fierce loyalty to what we believe is caring and wise and knowing, we will play out that ignorance in our lives. We will perpetuate it in whatever manner we can to ourselves and to anyone else within our group, whatever group that may be. If you're not in this game, so stay in the game and have courage and all that. So encouragement for you.
I don't want to eat a monkey.
Don't eat a monkey. Develop this kind of maturity, rationality, and allegiance to principles that reflect the logos.
I don't want to eat a monkey.
That's a dull color, isn't it? Now, the influence and power of the Pathologos extends into adult life. This isn't just for kiddies and babies, because every Pathologos presents within itself the model of caring and love. Why are you hitting me? It's tough love. I'm taking you out of that hockey game because I care about you. Don't you get it? I'm teaching you about the world. If you become a champion, don't you realize people hate champions? If you become, people hate a smartass. Don't be irrational. People don't like that. Don't understand problem. People don't like that. I'm caring for you by teaching you this hard truth. No. That's fucking bullshit. You are ignorant. You are full of ignorance. You haven't realized your own Pathologos. That stops you from understanding causes. Don't pass your bullshit on to me. That's what we have to say. Because it's true. And if you don't, then you perpetuate that in your life. You'll crush other people seeking understanding causes, seeking their highest goals, seeking being excellent. Okay, a model of caring and love. For when we recognize that we were the sole object of the parental attention and the focus of their highest regard, we knew that they were sharing with us their vision of what they regarded most real. Actually, let's give this a different color. So we were the sole object of our parental attention, and they seemed to be letting us in on a big secret, sharing, giving us their highest regard, and their secret was sharing with us their vision of what they regard most real. Finally, they have an opportunity to do that thing that all human beings who are irrational and immature seek, an opportunity to what we call play the or cosplay the guru, to present your dumb opinions. Finally, let me give you some advice. Run. Who cares about your dumb opinions? Nobody cares, unless you're challenging their dumb opinions, in which case you might get into a fight. Other than that, no one cares. You know what you can do? If you are a multi-billionaire because you are a disgusting capitalist dragon destroying the world and exploiting all other human beings so you can be a dragon sitting on a pile of gold coins, then what you can do is buy Twitter. And then you can force people to give a crap about your dumb opinions. No one will, unless it actually aligns with their own. But you can try and force people to care about your dumb opinions. Especially when Elon Musk, your children, and don't realize that you are a con artist fraud and you are unwilling to actually communicate or change your mind, then you might have to spend a lot of your money buying Twitter. And then what does he do on Twitter? He forces everybody to watch his posts. Doesn't matter if you like him or you subscribe or even if you blocked him. He is literally forcing his dumb opinions, his tweets, to the beginning of everybody's Twitter feed. So, on the parental way of seeing things, they finally have that opportunity to share what their highest vision of what they regard as most real. Only it's not actually as a knower, it's your dumb opinions that are wrong. Universally, Pierre once said, because nobody's so wise to be able to, in that situation, outline the truth about self and reality. It just can't be done. You might be able to help create the conditions or facilitate the conditions for the development of the logo so you can yourself develop an understanding. But then you'd have to be seeking your highest self goals with your self-understanding based on your self-experience. That's the logos, which is not compatible with dumb opinions. However, what we didn't know was we didn't know that it would become our model of caring, loving, and knowing. This way in which they're passing on their dumb opinions, we're the center of their attention. They seem to be finally showing themselves. They seem to be presenting an image of a knower. And so long as we preserve that's actually what it means to be a knower, we perpetuate that sickness. We become infected and become a spreader. And because of that intimate scene, kind of intimacy, kind of model of caring and love, and we didn't know that that would become our model of caring, knowing, and loving. So that would have implications with, hey, who are you going to marry? Don't you want to marry someone knowing and loving and caring? Someone who's going to do to you the same injustice that caused you problems. Hey, don't you want to be caring and loving towards people you love? So there's an imperative here to master the logos and the pathologos. Thus, we are drawn to those around us who play similar roles. That's what we've just been talking about. To those figures are in our past. Because, hey, those are the people who really got it figured out. And so it is not at all strange that we act out a familiar role. We're attracted to people who are beautiful and good and caring and knowing. Only it's fake. It's this fake model from this scene. Unless we recognize our role in these dramas, what role did we play? It is unlikely we will act out their tragic. It is likely. So unless we figure out our role in this whole the scheme, it is likely that we will act out the tragic implications, fate, suffering, self-fulfilling prophecies and self-sabotage. There is a power to these unreflective relationships, an attraction towards them, and even an intense loyalty to preserve such associations, right? When even people in this game, hey, I think you might be in a block. How dare you? I will fight you. This is right. I learnt it through the school of hard knocks. My mother was a saint, and my father can beat up your father. I am loyal to them. And people who are just like them. People who mimic this kind of thing. Hey, politicians who mimic this kind of injustice. Weren't there a lot of people fiercely loyal to Hitler? They reawaken symbolically these early conflicts. The people like this model of loving, caring, and knowing. They reawaken symbolically early conflicts, keeping alive what was believed to be shared moments of genuine intimacy. It wasn't actually genuine intimacy, it was a false belief. Which again, the same thing that we see in philosophy time and time again. Our problems is a conflict between belief and understanding. What kind of beliefs hold fast? Because understanding is the logos. It's you can understand there's a flow to it, there's a necessity, there's a logical connection, there's the dialectic structure it follows. You can see it for yourself. You can use it in experience. Verify your understanding. None of that's the case for beliefs. So then how do we learn beliefs? We have to figure out this scene. Just by being the sole object of their attention, the focus of what seems to be their higher regard. They seem to be sharing a vision. All the other conditions we've already looked at, dependent relationship, still having images of authority, the relationship or the connection between the milieu and that pathologos. All of these things are just setting the stage for you to pick up a sick false belief. The exact opposite of how Socrates functions and how we are trying to function towards each other and on this channel. Create the conditions for actual mature reflection on the logos. The opposite of belief. Learning the structure of the dialectic, taking time to read, giving time to pull out the key terms, saying, hey, you do this. Saying, hey, if you're doing it, good job. If you do it, share your dialectic, which is the conditions for actual understanding, which you can confirm in your own experience, and also opens the door to nous, direct apprehension of being, which is needed for true guruship, true experience of the soul or this consciousness, aspects of enlightenment. So good on you for doing it. Let's tell the truth about how rare it is, as we're learning here, but also how rare philosophy is, this is learning the logos and dialectic applied to freeing us from our problems. Philosophy is learning the logos and dialectic to reach truth and being, pointing out how rare it is. Only in the last 5 to 10 years have we had the Balboa translations. Meaning, if you're in this game, it's rare, so stay with it. Find people, judge whether they're actually legitimately interested. Find people who you can share your ups and downs with, share the journey with. This Discord community that we have that you're welcome to join for free, trying to establish the conditions for true application of the logos to understand it. Realizing we're not supposed to get it right first time, we just have to be doing our best. That's virtue. We're reading in the Meno, aporia. Not having the thing, but doing our best to use the dialectic to reach it, that's still virtue. That's still justice. So, whereas this is being certain, the opposite of being curious. These are conditions that squash the logos, attack you if you try and use the logos, yell at you if you try and use the logos, all that kind of crap. Exact opposite here. And I encourage you to do the same thing in your family, in your relationships, and any groups that you have influence over. And also the human species, if you happen to be a ruler, or if you're a lawmaker, use the logos to write the laws. As simple as that. So, what we are doing our best to achieve in this community and this channel is the exact opposite of what we're reading here. So, good for us.
But hey, that's just a theory.
I don't want to eat a monkey.
I need more sound drops. More sound drops are important. Okay, so the people that we're attracted to in our life reawaken symbolically these early conflicts, keeping them alive. So if that's the case, the universe is unfolding, or the conditions and the principles of the universe creating the conditions for us to have to address what we're here to address. Which means even the kaka daemon, the bad daemon, the negative daemon that keeps our internal conflict with our pathologos tyrant. So I use tyrant to be the prayer. They're tyrannical against the self in logos. Not allowed. Not allowed to question authority. What's a tyrant do? Not allowed to question authority. I will give you rewards if you go along with us. Acceptance within the clan. You have to follow the clan. You can't be against us. Exile and various things, rewards and punishment and praise and blame to go along. So there's an internal tyrant that puts us down, says that we're not good enough and reality isn't good enough. So isn't that terrible? Isn't that proof we live in an unjust world? That voice is the strongest voice in reality until we go through midwifery? Well, perhaps it has a higher function, that is to keeping alive these shared moments, what seem to be, believed to be shared moments of genuine intimacy, so we can see it for what it is and free ourselves from an injustice we are carrying with us. Recognizing that we are carrying that with us, we came to this false conclusion. Even though the conditions were stacked against us, we came to that conclusion, so we have the power to free ourselves. That might be what we're talking about here, our role. What was our role? Our role in these dramas. Thus, when someone comes along and plays a role similar to those in the Pathologos scenes, we are vulnerable and may accept a fiction as a sign of love and knowing, and unknowingly play out the rest of the personal Pathologos drama. I hate when this happens. You'll be going along nicely, then a certain person will present themselves a certain way and you'll buy into their bullshit for some reason. It'll be fake and wrong and against your interests, but somehow you'll want to suck up to them or agree with them or buy into their drama or whatever, because they appear to be a knower and a carer and a lover. And then afterwards you realize, what the heck? And by the way, they didn't have to play out the whole drama. They just did that and I played out the rest of it. I handed my wallet over them, to use that quote from before. I ended up doing this. Convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man. He won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him someone to look down on and he'll empty his pockets for you. He will play out the rest of the drama. And once you realize that after the fact, you might get angry at yourself and start making speeches in the shower. I wish I would have said this. I wish I would have said that. That's literally what we're learning here. What should we have said? And what can we say next time it happens? What can we say that's sufficient to end that conflict and the need for that kind of drama to manifest in our life because we've seen it for what it is, seen it's not actually true, knowing, caring, and loving, so we're no longer attracted to that. It won't come up. And we won't have that internal voice also keeping it alive. So the idea of leaving society and living out in the woods or whatever like a hermit, that's not going to save you because you still have it within your own mind. You don't need other people around. But hence, it is inevitable that when we pursue our object of love and strive to realize a meaningful relationship, we will find our pathologos manifest itself. We will. You want a good relationship? Philosophical midwifery is a must, because if you are trying to realize a meaningful relationship, you will find your pathologos manifesting itself. It ain't a choice. It ain't a roll of the dice. Same thing with groups. You're doing something meaningful, you will find your pathologos manifesting yourself. You better have your nose in this book, and you better be doing your best to actually live according to its principles, especially when it sticks its nose in. The price we pay for our loyalty to the pathologos increases dramatically as the goal becomes more personally significant to us. So not only does the pathologos stick its head in, the closer we are getting to our object of love or meaningful. Those are the two things. You love things that are beautiful. So objects of love and beauty, and what's meaningful to you. That's when you can be guaranteed, I guarantee, your pathologos will come in. But also, the greater the stakes of you actually not doing midwifery. You will lose your beloved. You will have a conflict that won't be able to be resolved without it. Why? Because you want your partner to be most beautiful and good. They want you to be most beautiful and good. Hey, how much time have you spent studying the nature of beauty and the good? That's philosophy with the Balboa translation. And if you aren't doing that, you will be, and you're not doing midwifery, you will be trying to force your pathologos model of the imitation of love and beauty and knowing onto your partner. They'll be trying to do the same. You will always butt heads because no pathologos can be similar. That's why you're attracted to them in the first place, as it says here. But also, no pathologos are exactly the same, so you will reach conflict. And even if your pathologos was similar enough that you could compromise and play it out on each other, you won't be able to reach your most meaningful goals because the pathologos specifically functions to stop that. So you will either have conflict and you will ruin a good relationship, or you will have a perfectly aligned, terrible relationship causing your greatest injustice and suffering. Is that good to hear? Yes, because it helps us realize how important it is to do what we're doing, which is our purpose here. And also it shows what normally is, you can't understand human conflicts. That's why there are so many different therapists and counselors and marriage counselors and relationship therapists and all this sort of stuff. No one seems to know. Well, of course they do. You do. Why? Because you're learning the actual model, and all of those people, whether they like it or not, their model will be influenced by or governed by entirely their pathologos model of what it means to be loving and caring and good and knowing. And if you've been to more than one psychotherapist or professional opinion haver, you may have recognized this already yourself. And for those in the comment section that says, hey, not all of us, not me, I'm a very good therapist. Well, I will say don't take it personally. Take this as a wake-up call an invitation to be a rare kind of mature, reflective person. Because this everyone but me shtick is bullshit. It's a literal principle of human consciousness, of the soul, of the human condition. To say every other group but me is immature. To say, oh, but now I'm going to attack attack you or attack the logos or something, that's irrational and immature. But it's good. Because, yeah, it's like, think of it this way. If you are attracted to this podcast, you are already someone who enjoys reason. So I'm guessing that you may have recognized that there are certain classes of people who are tied to opinions and belief that are terrible and wrong. And you probably enjoy when somebody who is using reason can actually speak reason. So, I don't know, when a rational person talks to a religious person or a grifter of some kind, you probably like that. The problem with the person bound by belief is they have no way of justifying their belief, so they use debate tricks. So Tim Pool and Ben Shapiro and all these sorts of people, they just talk really fast so they can get out their bullshit talking points. That doesn't make it true just because they're talking fast. Or referring back to that Sam Cedar Tim Pool conversation, Tim Pool tries to use debate techniques to never say anything. I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I actually win because of this technicality. That's bullshit debate crap. It's not true. It doesn't actually have any real world benefit. So that's their problem. They have nothing to justify their beliefs other than, I believe it. That's why they usually do other things to get into the public attention. Liver King gets roided up, or Andrew Tate tries to be as terribly sexist as he can be to get clicks, rage bait they call it. Or Tim Pool and Ben Shapiro says all the things that he know appeals to his conservative right-wing racist audience. Just betray all their own principles. And now once they have the views, they try and be a professional opinion haver, which is what we saw here, motivates all people because of that urge to be like our imitation of knowing, cosplay the guru. So that's their problem. But the people who are speaking back to them, they also have a different kind of problem. They can show the irrationality of the other people's arguments, and the people who are more rational are generally more empathetic, so they will appeal to probability. Well, it's probably better to be more empathetic. It's probably better to have an equal society. It's probably better to not destroy the planet. It's probably better not to have mass exploitation and genocide caused by capitalism and tyranny. But their problem is when they say, well, who's to say? They throw their hands up and say, well, I don't know. I guess it's all just an opinion. Your opinion is wrong because it's irrational and harmful, but I have nothing to point to that makes my opinions true either. That's their problem. That's the problem that we talked about last time of this. Here. They're still in the physical world. The level of beliefs. Yeah, their beliefs are more rational than prejudices and grifting and pathologos, but without actual dianoia, which we learn in philosophy and midwifery, you can't point to nous, which is the ontological level of being. Ontological means being. Level of reality, where the principles lie. So you say, yeah, this is true because it's being. It's always going to be true. It's the principles of truth. You can understand it and verify it for yourself, and then take this intersection here to go beyond it. Without that, they're usually atheist. There's nothing beyond belief. Why not? I don't know. Nobody's ever experienced the afterlife and come back to tell us. Absolutely they have. That's philosophy. Your teacher may not have told you about that. You might not have had the Balboa translation. There are many people who have experienced that and come back. Specifically, Socrates, who says this is part of education. Not a luck experience or a near-death experience or drug experience. All of these things can be initiating experiences, but through understanding. Even when you're there, you have to have the language and the appropriate states of mind to make sense of that experience. That's what we were talking about today. To understand it, to be able to use it artfully to help people at the level of beliefs. But that's their problem. Without doing philomathesis, love of learning, they're stuck in their physical body. They're not appealing to principles that are eternal, true, understandable, verifiable, and able to go beyond. Interesting? I think so. But that's us. That's what we're doing. We're developing that. So what we say is true is not true because we say it. It's true because it follows the logos, and understandable and verifiable and eternally true, and can be shown to benefit as well. Therefore can be an art. Same thing with fixing your car or any other art we have, only this is the art of logos. So the more we are loyal to the Pathologos, the more we sacrifice that logos. And that would mean, and by the way, and the more at stake, the more you lose. You're going to lose your most beloved. You're going to lose your highest goals. But also, the more you love, the more likely, the more force you're going to put into playing out your Pathologos. So what does that mean? That means every good relationship should have 3 members. I'm not talking about, what are they called? Polygamy? I think there's a cool word for it nowadays. I see TikTok memes about it, where you have like lots of people in the same relationship. But we want 3 people in the relationship. The more meaningful and beautiful and more you love, the more you're going to want to force your Pathologos into the relationship, onto the other person, which is of course the cause of problems and relationships ending. If you're lucky, if you're not lucky, you'll become resonating your Pathologos together to support it and get even more stuck. Sad face. Or you introduce a 3rd member, which is up here. You can say Zeus, the mythological personification of the principle of the logos, that both people can focus on together. So now we have a person with muscles. They're both looking at this guy. And establish principles so that you can help it when it comes up. Because when you're going to be fighting, you'd be like, I firmly believe you are the one at fault. Well, actually, let's follow the principles to reflect on the logos, to see what the logos is saying, where we deviated it from it, what was immediately before it. If we can look at a pattern, use that as an opportunity to reflect on what we're carrying that's false, because we're both human beings, meaning we both have a Pathologos, and we're both here to understand and free ourselves from it, allowing us to pursue our higher destiny. Together, hand in hand. Philosophy isn't a solo quest, which is why we have this channel and the Discord and so on. And the more you care about the person and the more meaningful the goal or the relationship, the more dramatic the stakes. The more you have an imperative to do this, and the more we will cheer you on. Yay, you can do it.
Wow.
Thus, within a, oh, that's a dirty color. Within a relatively short period of time, love is eclipsed, and by a strange alchemy, it becomes transformed into the model. Strange alchemy. What starts as a possibility for true love gets changed to a strange magical alchemy. Magical, not magical, rational. Becomes transformed into our model of our respective Wow, isn't that amazing?
Wow.
What we were just talking about. True love is eclipsed and becomes transformed into our model of Pathologos. So you better have a model of true love that you are both seeking together. So add to your third member of the relationship, Zeus and Aphrodite. True model of excellence and that you are truly loving, that you are both pursuing together. Otherwise, true love will be eclipsed and it will be transformed into your respective Pathologos, which you will either fight about or give up on your goals to be okay without the conflict, or maybe even resonate a little bit to get more entrenched in your own problems. When each imposes on the other those demands and expectations, this is my love language, they say, that are rooted in a Pathologos. Now, I'm not saying there isn't a love languages and stuff or preferred ways of expressing affection, but so long as they're rooted in a Pathologos, then chaos enters the relationship. That's most important. You can't have love without understanding. Love without understanding is freaking terrible. It's a disaster. You can't have love without understanding. That Beatles song, All You Need Is Love, bollocks to you, Beatles. The name of my first album. Bollocks to you, Beatles. All you need is understanding and love. States of mind and logos. Nous and dianoia. Both rungs of the ladder. Epistemology and ontology. Mastery of the logos and Pathologos. You need two things. In lots of different ways, but specifically here, understanding and love. Why? Hitler could say, I was very loving towards the German people. A parent who beats their children, it's tough love. Or sacrifice that hockey dad or the hockey mum. Hey, I took them out of their championship hockey game, but it was tough love. I taught them a lesson. Bollocks to that. Love without the logos is bollocks. And we're understanding why. Because within a relatively short time, true love is eclipsed. It becomes transformed into our model of our respective Pathologos that causes our suffering and injustice and illnesses, even to our soul, even in the next life, even in reincarnation. Becomes the most devastating thing. When each imposes on the other demands and expectations that are rooted in the Pathologos, chaos enters the relationship. Always, but not me. Yes, you. But surely not me, but surely you. It wouldn't be much of a paradigm or principle if it didn't apply to you only. If you were the one exception. That's maturity, that's integrity. Love and romance must struggle against the Pathologos, or the distorting power of the Pathologos will dominate the relationship. Big one, bombshell there. Huge. Right? Now, I'm going to leave that to you. Push the implications of that. What does that mean in every relationship you've ever been in? Does it make sense of all the ones that didn't pan out? Does it make sense of the arguments you're having right now? Where both people seem to be making demands that seem to be irrational, but also can be seen to reflect the Pathologos. To the extent that you are loyal to the Pathologos. Blind loyalty. Talked about the Germans. What was their problem? Blind loyalty to duty. I mean, every culture has their own one reflected. Blind loyalty to, you name it, the Torah, belief, images of authority, Pathologos, same thing. So we need to sacrifice blind loyalty or irrationality and immaturity with maturity and rationality, which means bringing in the logos, developing together. So it's not just a final model of excellence you're all seeking. You build it together, you develop it together, you polish it up nice and shiny together, as we are polishing up our logos and our what it means to read. In fact, all of the questions we're carrying, we're not only carrying it together, everyone watching this together, but we're polishing it up as we go. It's not about getting it right first time or blaming someone for getting it wrong. It's realizing that we are on a quest, which includes polishing our goal while doing our best to stay focused on it. Which, by the way, is the Mino. Stay focused on your ideal in being while doing the dialectic at all times. That's the just way of managing self, and that's a way that you can be sure that you are always acting in justice. Whether or not you get there or you're at a loss, aporia, doesn't matter, so long as you're doing it. In the strict sense, it should be clear that the family clan does not... Okay, here we go. In a strict sense, it should be clear that the family clan does not impose or force a particular belief upon the subject. The subject comes to a conclusion. So all of this acting and drama and setting up the milieu and all of the rewards and punishment and praise and blame and the selective, the artful and skillful use of benefits, praise, love, intimidations, humiliation, exile, coercion, acceptance and rejection, rewards and punishments, all of this to establish the milieu within which they can finally play out the big act, comes down to you having a strange, wordless conclusion. Let's give it a different color even. Strange, wordless conclusion. It's the reason why they had to go to that act is they can't force it into your brain or mind. Really, it's a mind, it's not physical. They have to create the conditions for you to come to this conclusion. It's a conclusion that tries to make sense of that very pathologos. So all of that stuff we've been saying was setting the conditions for the pathologos producing scene. So you have to kind of make sense of why they're doing that right now in this way, in this rare moment, rarely showing themselves, yada, 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 so that you can make sense of that very pathologos producing scene. The lesson one learns from those scenes is that our guardians have the power and authority over us. They have the power over us. They can kill us or end our goals or tell us what to do and so on and so on. The subject submits. The limits are set. A new reality must be acknowledged. Survival as a member of the family clan is assured. Now you get the safety. You're one of us. USA, one of us. Roles are established. And a new identity is gained. So, we have the subject submitting. We have the limits being set. We have the new reality. This is the way it is now. And will always be for my life and so on. You get a kind of survival within the clan. Again, going back to our caveman roots. But of course, we've outgrown that by far. Roles are established and a new identity is gained. That's the dynamics that happen. All from what? A strange, wordless conclusion that we come to. So we're not blaming us. Look at all the work that went into it. Look at the cost that went into it. You were too young. You didn't have a mastery of the logos. You still had that false, immature idea that beauty doesn't always equal truth. You're in a dependent relationship. You still had an image of authority. All you knew was your house. It could have cost you your life to speak up against it. So we're not blaming us for coming to this strange, wordless conclusion. Again, in words, you weren't able to ask a question. You weren't able to put it into words. But it is a great thing that we came to it, because that means we have the power to let it go or give it back. And we need to, because if we don't, the costs are everything that we love and hold dear. It's all our most beautiful and significant relationships. It's our goals. It's our self-development. It's our destiny. And hey, we will end up playing out the implications of our injustice, which will make not only our soul suffer, those around us suffer, but will affect our death and reincarnation, or lack of it if it's really bad. So again, stakes couldn't be higher. But if we do sacrifice our loyalty to what's sick and wrong, then we can gain all of those great things we left behind back again. Our higher self goals, our self-development, our self-understanding, our self-destiny, all through the self-logos. And we have the power to do that because we were the ones who, under these conditions, came to this strange wordless conclusion, because we are designed to make sense of things. We are designed as a philosophical adventurer.
You're a wizard, Harry.
As a Sherlock Holmes character. We are here on a quest.
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
Which involves what we do when we read. Pull out the pieces. Now, this text has a lot of highlighting because all the pieces are so significant. Pull out the pieces, write them down, see how we can make sense of it. See how we can bring it all together. That's understanding. So, it's a great thing that we tried to make sense of it. Only the things that we were trying to make sense of weren't true. It was false. It wasn't the logos, it was the pathologos. So we started by saying, hey, it's great that our soul seeks the guru. Our problem is we are seeking the fake guru. Why? Because we came to a strange wordless conclusion about self and reality when we were young. What does that mean? That we are bad? No. It's great that we want to make sense of the reality we find ourselves in. The problem is we applied it to things that were bullshit, lies. The managed milieu and the acts and all of these other injustices around us. So again, it's not that our soul is bad. We should seek the guru. We just shouldn't seek the imitation of the guru. We should seek to make sense of things. We just need to make sense of what's false the right way and take that freedom back to make sense of the true. That's why we need to be in philosophy, the Balboa translation of Plato, because that gives us the logos needed to actually make sense. Not of this crap, but of what's true. And gives us the model of the true guru, not the false guru. So that's why we need to free ourselves from this part. Philosophical midwifery is that, and do philosophy to do the other part. Let's write that on the board because that seems to be a nice one. We started by saying, we've got this side over here. We want to become the guru, become true guru, which is like the daemon. Our problems are we have the urge, primal urge to imitate false Noah. We need to, in order to really be the guru, we need to solve the puzzle of the logos, which we get from Balboa. Translation of Socrates. Our problem is we are trying to make sense of the Pathologos. Producing scene. So on one side we have the Balboa translation of Socrates. On the other side we have the Pathologos producing scene. On one side we have the logos that we are trying to solve the puzzle of or make sense of. On the other hand we have the making sense of the Pathologos through the Pathologos of what's false, of what's an act. On one hand, we want to become a true guru, but their problems. And this is our goals or destiny. And our true happiness. Fate over this side, and suffering. So here are some terms that we can pull out from today, and I encourage you to use these terms and do a dialectic about it. You've got side A, what is, side B of what's not. You can add things like philosophy and philosophical midwifery, but do it. Do a dialectic. Share it here if you want, or on the Discord you can join, because that's the difference. I'm not just giving you certain scenes so you can walk away with a wordless belief. Put words, so we can put it over here. You need words. So over here, you have words. So add this to your dialectic. Words. No words. Wordless. Over here you have the dialectic. Over here you have no dialectic. So, if we want to be on this side of the game, do it. Use these terms. This can be side A of the dialectic that you can practice putting words on to be able to most reach your destiny, develop an understanding, which is also creating the conditions for nous, the experience of being, that the debate bros lack, even if they're rational. And also will give you an understanding of this, because this is side B of the dialectic. Practice it, do it. Share your work, or share the effects of your work in this channel, in the comment section on Discord, whatever. But do it. Don't get it right. You're not supposed to get it right. You're supposed to do it. That's why it's a relationship. We are in a relationship with the logos through the dialectic. This is absolute certainty. No change. We're running out of space. No change. Stagnant. Dead. Over here, it's relationship. It's open-minded. It's curious. It's wondering. There is change. Changing. It's growing. It's developing. Personal development. It's evolving towards an ideal. Both have a kind of ideal. It's alive. So, do a dialectic, but hey, do another one. Change it. Because you do a dialectic, you've learned some stuff, you got enough to do another dialectic with. It's evolving, it's growing, the dialectic allows that. This isn't. You're either in or you're out. There's no growth. In fact, it limits growth. That's why there's always a ceiling. Here and no further. You think you're better than us, says some of them. Well, you are. You're out here. They're down here. You are literally better. But you can't think that. It's bad to be better. I'm the best. What, you think you're the best? Bollocks. If you think you're better than us, then hey, teach us to be better. That's the rational approach. Why would you want to make people not better? That's sickness. That's stagnation. That's death. That's unhealthy. This is healthy. Now, all of these are a bunch of terms that you can, you don't take for granted. You arrange in your own understanding through the dialectic to develop understanding that's evolving, that's growing. And that's what I'm encouraging you for. Giving you a bit of a head start. Got all these words on the board. You can pause, have a look at them. There you go. There you go. There you go. And have fun. Have fun. And share anything that you would like to share with us, because again, it's not a solo quest.
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
On that note, reminding us the stakes of this, it will come up. The more you love someone, the more beautiful your goal is, the more meaningful your goal is. It will come up, and the greater the stakes the greater the stakes of being loyal to your Pathologos. So do this instead, because the stakes are high. But also the rewards are high. You could say maturity is its own reward, but hey, you also get these other rewards on side A. So worth it, and worth encouraging other people to play the game you're in anyway, because you're never not in the game. You're either in one of those two sides. So choose well, and choose to join us next time. I hope to see you next time. Thank you for joining me this time, and I will see you then.